Absented Age is an action RPG developed by Terranon's Lab and published by Gotcha Gotcha Games. For sale on Steam for $22.95 Australian, 16 or something US dollars, I don't know. For the sake of transparency, I have been given a review copy for the purposes of this video, but let's crash right into the review. I'll start with the gameplay because it's a turn-based roguelite action RPG. Bear with me. You play as Satsuki as she wakes up in a strange world followed around by a spirit cat, and she has amnesia! The game is split up like levels, bosses, plot point. The gameplay loop starts with you experiencing some form of cutscene, then you play throughout the randomly generated levels of a dungeon, killing monsters and collecting loot and leveling up as you go. At the end of the level you kill the boss, go through a cutscene, and then you're transported back to the hub world. This random chick's apartment, okay, whatever, cool. Then you can store items, level up skills, and then go back into the dungeons. Now, each time you go back into a dungeon, you start off at level 1, so you want to spend your time grinding up through the monsters and leveling up before the boss fight. A cool feature in this game is when you pick up loot, let's say you pick up a Sword of Fire, if you pick up a second Sword of Fire later, you don't get 2 Swords of Fire, you get a level 2 Sword of Fire. And it's like that for most equipable things. Your shirts, your jackets, your skirts, your pants, your shoes, your weapons, rings, all of that sort of stuff. You've got gear that levels up every time you collect a duplicate of that gear. They do have durability, so you will find them breaking. Now, as you play through these dungeons, you'll be earning skill points, which you can use back in the hub world to learn new skills. Trust me, you're gonna want the backpack space. And you can replay the levels as many times as you like. In fact, it's recommended that you replay the levels over and over again so you can level up your items and earn more skill points. I have about 9 hours in this game so far, and I am absolutely nowhere near the end, so it's quite a long title. Later on in the game, you're actually able to summon heroes from other games, and they can help you out in battle, but I'm not that far into the game yet, so I will not comment on it. But from what I've experienced so far in the 9 hours that I have played, is it's a solid gameplay loop. There is a bit of a difficulty curve though, so if you're not an experienced RPG player, probably not the best title for you. It does test your brain a little. Now, as I said, I'm not too far into the game yet, so I haven't experienced the wealth of what the story has to offer. But from what I can tell within my 9 hours, you play as Satsuki. She has amnesia! A girl with amnesia who is, for all intents and purposes, a ghost. And she's roaming through these dungeons known as the Drift Worlds to look for fragments of her heart, and those fragments of her heart will help her get her memory back. Now, within the Drift Worlds, there are these monsters called the Gangers, and they're stealing heart fragments, stealing her memories away from her, so she has to go and fight them. One criticism I do have is that the story is a bit few and far between. So there is about 10 to 15 minutes of dungeon grinding, and then you get a bit of story. I'd like it if within that dungeon grinding there was just a bit more exposition. But as she slowly starts to get her memory back, a story does evolve explaining who she is and was. As I said, even with 9 hours into the game, I haven't experienced much story yet, so if you really want to know what the story's like, you're gonna have to go and play it. As I said, the gameplay loop is solid, you can go and experience the story. Now, as I said, the story comes off a little slow, and I've only played 9 hours, so I can imagine it picks up much more the further you get into the game. What I think this game has is a really solid gameplay loop that's enjoyable to play, just to run the dungeons over and over again. So if you're a fan of roguelikes, then I think you're really going to like this, because it's a roguelike with a bit of story intermingled in with it. The collecting of the items, the leveling up, the skill points. You can play this game for hours and hours and hours, and it's got so much replayability. Again, I would warn, it's not the easiest game, so if you're not a seasoned RPG veteran, I'd probably recommend just staying away from it, or at least giving it a go, but just know there is a bit of difficulty in it as well. Especially with one of the puzzles. I just completed one of the puzzles, which is like 3 levels in, and it was a bit of a brain mess around to work out. But the art is absolutely awesome. The portraits, the cutscene, all hand-drawn. The music is really good as well. And again, anything that Gotcha Games is pushing out, and they've got standards, right? So they're pushing out good stuff. I'm going to leave a link in the description. I don't really leave like best, 1 out of 10. So if I was to rate it out of 10, I'd rate it 11 Hawaiian pizzas out of 15 pepperoni pizzas. It's an alright game, it's a solid game. And with that, thank you guys for watching the video. I'll leave a link in the description so you can go purchase the game for yourselves. Don't forget to drink some water, and I'll see you guys next time.